Bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students. Send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. Our cover story tonight, we will tell you how China has been arming Pakistan with weapons of mass destruction, and why Pakistan is modernizing its nuclear capabilities with direct assistance from China. From the Ukraine-Russia war, we will tell you how the war has now reached a new and perhaps a dangerous intensity, with both the sides attacking each other and the West now allowing Ukraine to strike deep. As violence escalates, we will tell you what this means for peace negotiations. And from India, we will tell you how the Jammu and Kashmir police is changing the playbook in its fight against terror. All that and a lot more lined up for you on the show tonight. Let's get you started. Our top focus on the show, US intelligence has confirmed what many already suspected. China is actively arming Pakistan with weapons of mass destruction and driving Islamabad's nuclear expansion from battlefield-ready tactical nukes to command and control systems. Beijing is now systematically overseeing how these weapons of mass destruction are manufactured and deployed. Why? Because Pakistan not only views India as an existential threat, but it wants to counter New Delhi's conventional military superiority. And Islamabad appears to have made nuclear deterrence its top priority. Such details have been made public in the 2025 Worldwide Threat Assessment, that's by the US Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA report reveals that Pakistan's military is modernizing its nuclear capabilities with direct assistance from Beijing. The report states Pakistan is sourcing WMD-related materials through a shadowy network of Chinese suppliers and transshipping sensitive foreign materials and technology through Hong Kong, Turkey, Singapore and the UAE. Pakistan, unlike India, has clearly refused to adopt a no-first-use nuclear policy, which only heightens the risk of a sudden and careless escalation. As of 2024, estimates from the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation suggests that Pakistan holds around 170 nuclear warheads. That figure reportedly surpasses earlier predictions by the DIA, which had expected 60 to 80 warheads by 2020. If current trends persist, Pakistan's nuclear stockpile could reach 200 warheads by the end of this year, further increasing the grave implications for regional and global stability as well. The DIA report further states, and I am quoting here, Pakistan primarily is a recipient of China's economic and military largesse, unquote. With the Pakistan military and PLA forces conducting multiple combined military exercises every year, but this China-Pakistan partnership has not gone unchallenged. The report perhaps highlights how a string of deadly attacks on Chinese workers in Pakistan, including the killing of 7 nationals in 2024, is now straining this relationship between Pakistan and China. With security for Chinese nationals involved in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, now becoming a growing concern. Last December, Pakistan's National Counter-Terrorism Authority said that at least 20 Chinese citizens have been killed and 34 injured in terrorist attacks in the country since 2021. Meanwhile, India remains locked in a perhaps very delicate balancing act. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's defense doctrine aims to showcase New Delhi as a global power, while simultaneously countering China, further highlighting India's growing military power. The DIA report also makes a clear distinction. For India, China represents the top-tier threat, while in its words, Pakistan is an ancillary security problem to be managed, and India is countering its primary adversary by giving priority to advancing its bilateral defense partnerships in the Indian Ocean region through exercises, training, arms sales, and even information sharing. So with China acting as the arsenal and Pakistan appearing to be pulling the trigger, one thing is clear: India will be monitoring these developments very closely. The war in Ukraine has now reached a new and dangerous height. Russia has unleashed its largest drone assault to date, while Ukraine is hitting back with bold attacks of its own. As the violence intensifies and escalates, both sides are trading blows as warnings from world leaders grow louder. Our next report telling you more.
The night sky over Ukraine pierced by the ominous buzz of drones and missiles as Russia initiated its largest aerial offensive since the invasion began. Russia launched a record-shattering drone barrage against Ukraine. In a single night, 355 Shahid-type drones and decoys rained down across the country, marking the most extensive drone strike since the war began. Ukrainian Air Force says Moscow's forces launched 9 Kh-101 cruise missiles from Tu-95 MS bomber planes. The relentless deadly assault targeted cities from Odessa to Kyiv, rocked by explosions and fires. Ukraine's air defenses were pushed to the brink, intercepting wave after wave of drones and cruise missiles. In Kharkiv, Russian forces intensified the pressure with a combination of glide bombs, drones and artillery, hitting multiple districts and leaving destruction in their wake. The renewed wave of attacks came after US President Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin absolutely crazy and warned Moscow of new sanctions if the attacks continued.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
The Kremlin brushed off Trump's remarks, calling them emotional overload. But tensions are clearly rising not just on the battlefield, but on the world stage. Ukraine did not sit idle. Military intelligence released footage of a daring drone strike on a Russian military fuel train in occupied Zaporizhia, igniting a massive fireball. Kyiv is sending a clear message that it is willing to take the fight beyond its borders. Amid the chaos, Russia and Ukraine completed their largest prisoner swap yet, exchanging 1,000 captives each. Still, Moscow has rejected calls for a ceasefire, determined to keep pushing forward. As both sides escalate their attacks, the world is left watching a conflict that shows no sign of slowing down. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The gloves are off. The West has just allowed Ukraine to strike deep. No more range limits, no more red lines. For the first time, Kyiv is free to strike Russian military targets deep inside enemy territory, anywhere, anytime. And this is a seismic shift in the war, and it could send shockwaves all the way to the Kremlin. Until now, Ukraine's hands were tied. Last October, former US President Joe Biden gave the green light for limited strikes only on Russian military targets close to the Ukrainian border. The message was clear: strike, but don't escalate. But the rules have now changed. It seems Kyiv's Western allies are done with half measures. Now, Ukraine can rain fire on Russian airfields, command posts, ammunition depots, and logistics hubs far behind the front. Reacting to this, Moscow says West lifting range limits on Ukraine, it arms quite dangerous. Ukraine's arsenal is formidable. It has the HIMARS system with a guided multiple launch rocket system up to 50 kilometers. Not just that, US ATACMS missiles with 300 kilometers range. Storm Shadow and Anglo-French cruise missile with a maximum range of around 300 kilometers. And these are not just weapons. They are game changers. But up to now, strict orders meant that they could only be used on Russian forces inside occupied Ukrainian lands. And that leash is now gone. Kyiv now holds the power to hit the Russian war machine where it hurts the most. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz summed it up clearly, saying that there are no longer any range restrictions on weapons supplied to Ukraine, not from the British, not from the French, not from Germany, and not from America either. Merz asserts Ukraine can now also defend itself by attacking military positions in Russia. Merz had long signaled that he will break from his predecessor Olaf Scholz's caution. The Taurus cruise missile, with its 500-kilometer reach, could now soon join the Ukraine arsenal if Berlin gives the final nod. And this move is a new threat for Moscow. No supply line, no command bunker, no airbase within range of Ukrainian missiles are now safe. The West has now made it clear Ukrainian forces will no longer fight with one hand tied behind its back. With range restrictions lifted, the battlefield just got a lot bigger and also a lot deadlier for Russia. From one war front to another, displaced, starved, and bombed daily. That's the reality of Gaza today. And after 1 year and 7 months of this, world leaders are drawing the line on Israel and saying no more. On Monday, Israel bombed and Gaza mourned the death of innocent Palestinians. The latest Israeli assault on Gaza came a day after European and Arab leaders gathered in Spain to discuss how they can pressure Israel to stop the Gaza assault. Considering that this was the 5th official meeting of leaders in what is known as the Madrid Group, and the fact that the global pressure has failed to stop Netanyahu so far, the question now is there any hope left for Gaza? What does the future look like for Palestinians in Gaza? Let's get into it, but first, here's what you need to know. On Monday, an Israeli strike killed dozens of Palestinians, including people sleeping in a school-turned-shelter. Then, rescuers reported the devastating Israeli strikes, which killed at least 52 people, 33 of them in the school shelter. I'm talking about displaced families seeking refuge from the ongoing Israeli bombings and attacks. Of course, Israeli military said that they only target Hamas militants. In its official statement, the Israeli security agency Shin Bet said Hamas was using the school to plan and gather intelligence. But the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says that Gaza's shelters are overwhelmed with people desperately seeking safety, and that there's no place safe and no area that is spared from hostilities in Gaza.
There's no military in it, there's no weapons in it. The school, the UNRWA, entered it, and all the supportive parties entered it. It's purely a civilian school. At 1 a.m. we were asleep and found ourselves crushed and directly struck. If it weren't for the grace of God, my children and I wouldn't have come out from under the rubble.
Well, what's the point of evacuation orders if the bombs follow people anyway? Evacuate and go where? There's no place left in Gaza. On Monday, even as Gazans were still reeling from the IDF strike, the Israeli military issued another round of evacuation orders. This time for residents in Khan Yunis, Bani Suhailia, Abbasan and Al-Karara, all in southern Gaza, to evacuate. In a statement on X, Israeli military spokesperson Avache Adari told civilians to leave for Al-Mawasi, a so-called safe zone. But that label of safe zone means little on the ground, as Israel has repeatedly struck these areas too. Humanitarian groups say it clearly that there is nowhere safe left in Gaza, and that's not all. The Israeli bombardment and the forced displacement has only aggravated the food crisis. Children and elderly are dying from starvation in Gaza. The United Nations has warned that Palestinians in Gaza are facing the cruelest phase of the war. With widespread famine imminent, experts say that unless Israel facilitates a massive influx of aid and ends its bombing campaign, Gazans will continue to starve to death.
Palestinians in Gaza are enduring what may be the cruelest phase of this cruel conflict. For nearly 80 days, Israel blocked the entry of life-saving international aid. As the world's leading hunger assessment found, the entire population of Gaza is facing the risk of famine. Families are being starved and denied the very basics, all with the world watching in real time.
Experts in humanitarian aid are echoing Guterres' comments, saying that the warning lights are all blinking bright red for famine.
I don't think we've ever found ourselves in a more acute moment in terms of conditions on the ground. We have been close to famine in the past, but all the indicators, particularly from the IPC, the international sort of mechanism that evaluates the state of food insecurity inside of Gaza, says the warning lights are all blinking bright red right now.
Israel's intensified bombing campaign as well as the forced displacement is hampering aid efforts, with most of Gaza's 2 million population squeezed into an ever-narrowing zone on the coast. Global pressure to get aid in quickly has ratcheted up. Israel has announced that a new system sponsored by the US and run by private contractors will soon begin operations from 4 distribution centers in Gaza. But details of how this system will work, that still remains unclear. The United Nations has already said it will not work with the new system, which it says will leave aid distribution conditional on Israel's political and military aims, that is. According to Israeli military, it has conducted strikes on over 200 targets in the past 48 hours. According to the Jerusalem Post, the IDF, as a part of Operation Gideon's Chariots, said that they attacked Hamas weapons depots, sniper posts, tunnel shafts over the weekend. Remember, Israel has stepped up its military operations in Gaza in early May as it seeks to eliminate Hamas and bring back the remaining hostages. And despite the mounting global pressure that has pushed Israel to lift the blockade on aid supplies, in the face of warnings of looming famine, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said last week that Israel will control the whole of Gaza. So far, Israel seems to have taken control of around 77% of the enclave, either through its ground forces or evacuation orders, and bombings that keep residents away from their homes. What's more, Gaza's healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, as hospitals and medical facilities continue to come under Israeli fire. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 700 attacks have been carried out on healthcare facilities since the war started, and more than 90% of Gaza's hospitals have been damaged or destroyed. Shifting our focus to India now, where the Jammu and Kashmir police is changing the playbook in its fight against terror. For the first time, Jammu and Kashmir Elite Special Operations Group is being trained in jungle and high-altitude warfare. This is a direct response to the brutal terror attack in Pahalgam's Baisaran Valley on April 22nd, where 26 innocent lives were lost in a ruthless terror attack carried out by terrorists who vanished into the dense jungle moments later, and that was a wake-up call. Now, in an aggressive counter-offensive, the Jammu and Kashmir police is taking the fight into the jungle. The Special Operations Group, also known as SOG, is now undergoing intensive jungle warfare training across multiple locations in the Union Territory. As per official data, less than 140 terrorists remain active in Jammu and Kashmir, but the threat is far from over. While in Kashmir, there are around 65 foreigner terrorists. In Jammu Division, there are around 55 to 57 terrorists, and most of these foreign terrorists are highly trained in jungle warfare. The SOG was formed in the 90s to combat the threat of rising terrorism. But today's battlefield is different. Denser forests, higher peaks, and more elusive enemies. This new phase of training will determine how secure the valley stays in future. And with the annual Amarnath Yatra around the corner, the security forces are leaving no stones unturned to ensure that the cross-border terror attempts can be nipped in the bud. The Jammu and Kashmir police is drawing a firm line in the forests, and the training has just begun.
Kashmir Police's Special Operation Group personnel are being trained in high-altitude warfare. This comes right after the Pahalgam attack. That group of SOG men have been sent across various high-altitude warfare schools in the Union Territory and across the whole country to train them specially for the high-altitude warfare. This comes right after the Pahalgam attack in which terrorists killed 26 people, civilians, and after that vanished into the thick forest of the Anantnag district. The security forces believe there are over 100 foreign terrorists present on the mountainous ranges of Jammu and Kashmir, and they're very highly trained to carry out attacks on security forces and then vanish into these dense forests. And that's why now Jammu and Kashmir police is training the SOG personnel in high altitude warfare so that they can counter these terrorists and neutralize all of them hiding in various forests across Jammu and Kashmir. With video journalist Firoz Idris Lone for WION The World is One.
Let's now tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We will tell you about China's most advanced aircraft carrier, the Fujian, which has completed its 8th and, according to reports, the most intensive sea trial ever. Also on the show, it has been 5 years since George Floyd's murder. Where does America stand on racial justice today? We'll get you that report as well. And finally, we will tell you about China's new dynamics when it comes to marriage. With millions of Chinese men struggling to find wives at home, they are now turning towards Russia and other countries. Shifting our focus to Bangladesh, an intense power crisis is increasing unease in the country, and it revolves around the leadership of Mohammad Yunus, the head of Bangladesh's interim government, who seems to be leaving no stone unturned to stay on in the seat of power. Recently, Yunus claimed that a warlike situation has emerged in the country ever since former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's party Awami League was banned. According to Yunus's press secretary, Shafiqul Alam, Yunus made this remark at a meeting with political parties at a time of rapidly spreading unrest in the country amid rising demonstrations and threats posed against his interim government. Yunus says that the law and order has collapsed in Bangladesh, pushing the country to the brink of chaos. The other and perhaps the most important thing Yunus reportedly said is that his administration is working to hold elections before next June. More specifically, as per Alam, Yunus plans to hold the elections between December 2025 and June 30th, 2026, post which he will not stay in power even for a single day, adding that he would perhaps feel guilty should he fail to hold a fair election. He also emphasized the importance of unity and consensus to avoid a division. Responding to these reports, former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, in her latest audio message, slammed Yunus, accusing him of selling the nation to the United States. Hasina's heated response comes in the wake of the ban imposed on her and her party. In a strongly worded post, Hasina invoked the memory of her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding leader of Bangladesh, claiming that he was assassinated for refusing to give up St. Martin's Island to the US. Hasina's statement has underscored the widening rift between the exiled Awami League, the transitional administration, and Bangladesh's increasingly assertive military. Meanwhile, the ban on Awami League from electoral activities has divided the Bangladeshi voters, While some voters want Hasina to face trials for alleged crimes against humanity, another section questions the lack of inclusivity in the upcoming elections and their veracity if parties are to be banned.
All praises be to Allah. This party needs to be banned completely. All the martyrs' families are happy. We support this move 100%.
Earlier, Yunus had threatened to resign unless reforms are implemented before elections can be conducted in Bangladesh. And all this brings us to several key questions. Number one, is Yunus's reform speech simply a ploy to delay the elections and a tactic that he relies on to buy more time? Or is he diverting attention from the immediate issues in hand? A reminder here that elections are integral for a country's functioning to fix accountability for decisions taken by those who are in power. They're also a means to articulate the wishes of the population on the governance they need and they deserve. And Bangladesh is no exception. Bangladesh has been in a state of perpetual turmoil, that since the uprising in July 2024, when Hasina was ousted from power. But with the interim government stepping in to fill the leadership vacuum, important functions and institutions from the economy to enforcement of law and order, they have all taken a massive hit in Bangladesh. What the Bangladesh population needs are free and fair elections and judicial procedures, a chance to elect the leader of choice to power who represents their voice. As it stands now, the Yunus government faces pressure on all fronts, including the Bangladeshi army, as well as its chief opponent, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, who are all calling for immediate elections amid the continuing political unrest in Bangladesh. The question is, can Bangladesh survive another uprising, another period of destability, and another leadership crisis? Sure, reforms are important, but so are timely elections conducted in a proper, legal and constitutional manner that serves the people at large and not just stakeholders, people of rank and their agendas. Well, China is continuing to push the boundaries of naval warfare. Its most sophisticated aircraft carrier, the Fujian, has entered what reports are calling its most intensive sea trial so far, the 8th in a series of rigorous maritime tests. What's more, according to state media, China's 5th generation stealth jets, the catapult launch-capable J-35s, have also carried out tests and flights. However, the state media reports did not specify if the J-35 jets were launched from the Fujian. The trials come at a time when Chinese military activity is surging in the South China Sea and with tensions escalating in the region. From China's perspective, the Fujian's capabilities carry even more strategic weight. Let's tell you more about this. Measuring nearly 316 meters in length and weighing over 80,000 tons, the Fujian has the distinction of being the largest conventionally powered warship ever built. Commissioned in June 2022 as China's 3rd carrier, it stands apart as the first to feature electromagnetic catapult launch systems, a technology that places it in direct competition with America's Gerald R. Ford class carriers, capable of deploying up to 70 aircraft, including the J-15 multi-role fighters and anti-submarine Z-9C helicopters. The Fujian reportedly has 2 aircraft elevators, 3 electromagnetic catapults, and 4 arresting wires to recover aircraft returning from missions. The warship also has short-range surface-to-air missile system and autocannons to counter incoming missiles and aircraft. Its electromagnetic launch system reportedly enables it to launch heavier planes more frequently potentially allowing fighter jets to be fully loaded with fuel and armaments. According to state media, the catapult also enables the launch of different sizes of drones. Strategically, the Fujian empowers China to extend its military footprint well beyond its coastline. The carrier strengthens China's ability to sustain operations across the Indo-Pacific, including the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Currently, there is no official date about when the Fujian will formally join the Chinese Navy. But with the Fujian entering an advanced stage of trials and the PLA assessing how combat ready it truly is, the warship is likely to enforce recalibration of strategies across the Indo-Pacific. A video of French President Emmanuel Macron from Vietnam has sparked a social media frenzy, not for diplomatic reasons, but for a moment between Macron and his wife. As the two arrived for an official visit, cameras captured what appeared to be a sudden, sharp gesture from the First Lady, pushing the president's face aside. The video has now gone viral, drawing reactions, denials, and some eyebrow-raising questions. Take a look. In a bid to reduce the country's reliance on the US dollar, the Taliban are in advanced negotiations with Russia and China to conduct bilateral trade in local currencies.
We are currently engaged in specialized discussions considering regional and global economic perspectives, sanctions and the issues Afghanistan is currently facing as well as those Russia is dealing with. We are having technical discussions and I'm confident that this is a very good option.
Afghanistan and Russia currently conduct about $300 million in annual trade, primarily in petroleum, gas, wheat and plastics. Kabul's acting Commerce Minister Haji Nuruddin Azizi says that both countries have deployed technical teams to draft mechanisms that would allow banks to transact directly in local currencies. Similar proposals are being explored with China as well, as Afghanistan tries to secure more stable and independent trade channels away from the US dollar.
Just as we seek to establish financial ties with Russia through local or regional currencies or markets, we also aim to develop similar relations with China. We have put forward proposals in this regard and preliminary discussions have already taken place. We are looking to move forward with China in this area as well.
The push for local currency trade is a part of a broader strategy to stabilize Afghanistan's economy, attract regional investment and reduce the impact of Western sanctions. A working group involving the Chinese embassy and Afghan commerce officials has already been formed. Azizi says that all these agreements could benefit the Afghan people by making trade more efficient and less vulnerable to international financial restrictions. George Floyd. Does the name ring a bell? Yes. He's the same man who was killed by a police officer rather brutally in broad daylight during an arrest. A murder that shook America. The very face behind the reprisal of the Black Lives Matter movement that rocked the US once again in 2020. 5 years on, Americans across the country are still remembering Floyd and seeking answers and reforms to the rather pressing issue of racial injustice in America. At religious services, concerts and vigils held nationwide, thousands are marking the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's murder. Concerts, worship service and other forms of commemorations were held at George Floyd Square in Minneapolis. On Sunday, Floyd's family gathered in their hometown of Houston near his gravesite for a prayer service. Civil rights activists and leaders joined the demonstrations in numbers, demanding police and judicial reforms that protect black people, minorities and those defenseless in America against atrocities. They also signal a distinct shift in narrative in the United States of America that changed its tone from safeguarding black lives to championing the cause for white grievance.
To the nation to continue to fight for federal law, stand with Congresswoman Williams and others as we change the law. We need legislation for justice for all Americans, rather than a hallucination that there is some genocide against whites in South Africa.
The chilling murder of Floyd had sent shockwaves across the nation and led to mass demonstrations against racism and police brutality. Many hailed it as a moment of national reckoning with the issue of racism itself. But 5 years later, where does America stand as far as tackling racial attacks are concerned? A problem America has grappled for far too long. In the recent past, racial attacks in the US have only risen. And we have numbers. In 2023, a black honor student was shot dead by a man based out of Kansas City for mistakenly ringing his doorbell. Then, in 2022, 3 men were convicted of racially motivated hate crimes in connection with the killing of a young black man in Georgia. In 2020, a 26-year-old black woman was killed by the Louisville police, who forced into a house after midnight. And there are many more, thus making it crystal clear that racism and racial attacks are a living reality in the US till date. Have any reforms promised in the wake of Floyd's death been implemented so far? And have they brought about the desired changes? Not quite, it seems. In 2021, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act aims to address law enforcement reforms. It failed to pass the bipartisan package in the US Senate. In 2022, former US President Joe Biden signed an executive order to implement as much of the legislation to promote safe and accountable policing. And a recent poll by Pew Research found that 8 out of 10 African Americans have experienced personal discrimination. Why? Because of their race or ethnicity. And close to 72% believe the demonstrations in 2020 did not lead to changes that improve the lives of black people living in the US. In January 2025, the administration of US President Donald Trump halted police reforms agreements. Many Americans think this has impacted the very course correction that America needed with regards to the treatment meted out to people of color. Floyd's dying words, "I can't breathe," that became a rallying cry for justice. It also stood for freedom and dignity of individual lives. And honoring him is incomplete without the required judicial intervention, which is required to address the issue head on. Time is ticking for leaders and voices of authority who need to rise now to the occasion and resolve the differences that divide people, then unite. In India, monsoons have arrived in several states much earlier than usual and days before schedule. Several parts of the country are now experiencing moderate to heavy rainfall, marked by some unusual weather patterns. The southwest monsoon has advanced into states like Maharashtra and Karnataka, as well as parts of northeast region, bringing with it heavy spell of extreme winds and rainfall. In Mumbai, heavy rains have lashed several parts of the city, breaking a 107-year record and marking the earliest monsoon in 75 years. They have brought life to a standstill with gusty winds, waterlogged streets, submerged train stations. And this is just the first day of monsoons.
Mumbai has received a lot of rain today. Traffic remains largely normal in the city. There is waterlogging in the Hendmata area. The BMC team is working in the area.
Down south, several parts of Karnataka, including Bengaluru and Kaliburagi city, have experienced heavy rainfall in the past 24 hours, so much so that a red alert has now been issued in coastal Karnataka for the next 5 days. Incessant rainfall has also impacted northern districts of Kerala, with people being shifted to relief camps and safer locations in many places. Conditions remain favourable for southwest monsoon to further advance into some more parts of North Bay of Bengal and remaining parts of northeastern states. Heavy rains are also expected in parts of sub-Himalaya, West Bengal and Sikkim in the next 72 hours. Meanwhile, rains also lashed India's national capital, New Delhi, on Sunday, with the city experiencing its wettest May since 1901. Thunderstorm and heavy winds rattled windows and uprooted trees in many areas, besides disrupting airport facilities as well. In a few hours itself, the city recorded close to 81.4 millimeters of rain, the second highest 24-hour rainfall that Delhi has seen in the month of May. China has a new dynamics when it comes to marriage. With millions of Chinese men struggling to find wives at home, many are now reportedly turning towards Russia and other former Soviet countries. But what's driving this unusual trend? The answer lies in numbers and culture. China's long-standing one-child policy, combined with a deep-rooted cultural preference for boys, that has now created a sharp gender imbalance. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, men outnumber women by an estimated 30 million. Too many men and too few women. That has also increased the cost of marriage. In rural China, grooms are expected to provide up to $83,000 worth of cash, jewelry, or property for a bride. And Russia, where there are reportedly around 10 million more women than men, it has now become a hotspot for international matchmaking. This has led to the development of a new industry, where marriage agents offer their services, especially on WION. Now, that's the Chinese version of TikTok. It's an app and other social media platforms. Chat groups are filled with young men who are now exchanging advice on finding partners in Russia, Ukraine and beyond. But such services are also leading to scams. China's embassy in Bangladesh has now issued a warning against matchmaking services that promise foreign brides for a fee and urged Chinese citizens not to fall for scams that could cost them both emotionally and financially. Meanwhile, marriage rates continue to drop within China. Last year, China saw its lowest number of marriage registrations since 1980. The country registered around 6.1 million marriages, a decline of more than 20% from 2023. So perhaps it appears modern realities are rewriting the rules of finding a partner. And for millions of Chinese men, it appears that the road to marriage might just start with a passport. Earth's core is hiding a glittering secret, one that could rewrite everything we know about our planet's riches. Imagine a reservoir of gold vast enough to blanket every continent in a 50-centimeter sheet of pure metal. Our next story has details of a fascinating discovery about this treasure trove. Take a look.
What if Earth's greatest treasure isn't in its crust but deep beneath your feet? What if the planet's fiery heart is hiding a secret stash of gold and it's slowly leaking to the surface? This isn't fantasy. It's a scientific revelation that's reshaping how we understand our planet's inner riches. Scientists now believe Earth's core is a colossal vault of precious metals, especially gold. According to a new study, there's a vast reservoir of gold buried some 3,000 kilometers beneath us. Not scattered in veins or chunks, but locked deep within the planet's metallic heart. And astonishingly, it may not stay there forever. Researchers from Florida State University and Arizona State University have discovered that molten iron in the outer core can dissolve and carry significant amounts of gold. This gold, under immense pressure and temperature, is likely leaking upwards over geological time through mantle plumes and volcanic activity. Every volcanic eruption, every tectonic shift might just be delivering microscopic specks of core-borne treasure to the surface. The study also helps explain why Earth's crust is unusually rich in gold compared to other celestial bodies. Some of it may have come from asteroid impacts, but a good portion, it might be Earth's own hidden wealth seeping out over time. Don't expect anyone to dig up this core gold anytime soon. The journey from 2,900 kilometers below is agonizingly slow, and the quantities reaching the surface are minuscule. This finding doesn't just change our understanding of Earth's geology. It hints at similar processes on other rocky planets, opening up a new frontier in planetary science.
A recent study by Cancer Research UK has revealed major differences in how skin cancer affects men and women. And the reasons may just surprise you. According to the study, men are more likely to develop melanoma, which is the deadliest form of skin cancer, on their torso, back, chest and abdomen. Meanwhile, for women, melanomas are found on lower limbs from the hips to the feet. Researchers believe that the pattern is influenced by typical clothing choices. Now, last year, the rates of melanoma skin cancer reached an all-time high in the United Kingdom, with new diagnoses increasing by a quarter from 21 to 28 in every 100,000 people. That's between 2007 and 2009 and 2017 and 2019. Melanoma skin cancer is the 5th most common cancer in the United Kingdom, and the number of cases has been increasing over the last few decades. According to Cancer Research UK, the primary cause is excessive UV radiation, which is the main risk factor for melanoma. Cancer Research UK reports that 85% of melanomas in the United Kingdom are caused by excessive UV radiation, UV exposure. And this is partly due to more people being exposed to intense sunlight on holidays abroad. While UV exposure is the main cause, other factors like family history and having too many moles can also increase the risk of melanoma. Despite the rise in skin cancer cases, there's also some good news. Skin cancer mortality is decreasing. According to the study, 9 in 10 adults diagnosed with melanoma will survive the disease for 10 years or more. What is also important to note here is that prevention is of course better than early detection. By practicing sun safety, we can stop melanoma cases happening at all. Well, that's all that we could pack for you in today's edition of Gravitas. We're now slipping into a very short break, but we're leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
India's unprecedented diplomatic outreach to the world. Multi-party delegations expose, isolate, counter Pakistan's terror machinery as a threat to peace-loving, development-oriented humanity.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people. He's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us.